Welcome to Coo Coo for Who, a Doctor Who podcast for the 50th anniversary, the Day of the Doctor. I am your host, Molly Southgate, and with me is...
Martha Southgate.
And your dad, Rob Southgate.
I know you're my dad.
Did you know he was the 8th Doctor?
Who?
Doctor Who! Wow, what did you think of this 50th anniversary special, Mom?
I loved it!
Where'd you see this?
In the theater, and I got to eat popcorn.
And it was 3D, so you had to wear the glasses and
then he's like, whoever one of you has the black, one of the sides black, and it is a Brygon, and all of us had the black side.
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of Brygon.
Well, that was something that they showed only in the theater. They had that little thing at the beginning when the doctor came out and warned us all that there were Zygons there. That was pretty funny, wasn't it?
So funny. Mm-hmm. And he said, look at your neighbor and see if they have any black in their glasses.
And of course we all did, because we all had 3D glasses on. Mm-hmm. Hilarious.
One of them was normal, one of them was black.
Exactly.
Yep.
With everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So this started with the way it started originally, with the original music, the original graphics. Mm-hmm. Now, have you ever seen that before? You've only seen it how it looks now with the TARDIS flying through the hole, the time tunnel, or whatever you call it.
And I haven't seen. I'm relatively new to the Doctor Who world.
Yeah, so we haven't seen it
I haven't
before.
Seen it.
Okay, I've seen those, and I was super excited. As soon as it started showing that image and that old soundtrack started up, I was freaking out. I freaked out through the whole thing.
I loved it.
Me too.
Loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it.
Every
Me
minute
too.
of it.
Every minute of it.
Yeah.
And I love how each Doctor just seems so proud to be in, to be a part of it and to be, they just are so happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they're just so
well,
the happiest group of people.
Yeah.
I just want to hug them all.
The whole thing is like that, and even like the audience we saw it with, of course.
Yeah, the audience was
the
fun,
one time they're showing it in a theater, so of course it's going to be Doctor Who fans.
And
there.
it was sold out.
But
we
people
got our
were
tickets.
just
A
loving it.
lot of them had Doctor Who hats. One of them had a sonic screwdriver.
Yeah, and
did
the
you
one
see
girl
that?
had a TARDIS dress on.
Yeah.
Now, did anyone have the big scarf from the 4th Doctor?
No.
Oh, that's a fail. I would have worn that.
Why didn't you?
I don't have
you
one.
You failed, apparently.
Failed.
But it was
you could
so.
have worn Mom's.
All of the theaters in the Chicago area, from what I understand, all sold out.
Yeah.
And that is huge for a.
Yeah, and Tom Baker was in it.
Yeah.
And he was older, and he was a curator at a museum.
Yeah.
So, but he was a doctor.
Yep.
Well, yeah, we have to talk about that in a little bit.
Weird.
Yeah, we got to talk about that in a little bit.
Because the doctor never gets old.
Well,
he does get old.
I'll tell you what I
never
think was
looks
going
old.
on there.
What?
Well, okay, we might as well jump to that part. So at the end of the episode, Tom Baker is the curator at the National Museum, and they're sitting in a room, the two doctors, the 10th Doctor and the 11th Doctor. I'm getting them confused now, aren't I? Because, now that we have the War Doctor.
Dr. Tennant. David Tennant.
Dr. Tennant. Calling Dr. Tennant.
Matt, just say Matt Smith and David Tennant.
So Matt Smith, David Tennant, and John Hurt were all in this room with Clara, in this room at the National Museum, and they were looking at the 3D painting that was the Time Lord painting. And David Tennant and John Hurt left, and Clara left too. I don't know where she went. She kind of disappeared. She went into her TARDIS.
Well, wait, each one went into their own TARDIS.
Right,
and
so
John Hurt left first, and he said, which one's mine? And his was just...
Yeah, cruddy.
Right? It had paint smeared on it. It was just weathered, very weathered.
And David's looked better, but Matt's looked the best. But that's because River Song made him clean it. In that one episode, she made it. She was out there with the paint and everything, cleaning it up.
That's funny. So Clara went to wait for him in that one.
So Matt Smith was sitting there, and they said the curator is going to come by. Now, what was cool?
Well, Clara told him that, so she was getting out of there because she knew that this guy wanted to see him.
Right. There was going to be some kind of discussion. And what was cool in that room is on the wall, it looked like the inside of Tom Baker's TARDIS. Those round things there. So Matt Smith's sitting there, and Tom Baker walks in, freaking out, and he says, I never forget a face.
Yeah.
Especially that one. Now, online, people have been debating whether he was supposed to be the Doctor. In my mind, 100% it was the Doctor.
Yes.
Now, here's what I think happened. In an earlier episode, David Tennant splits into he's the Doctor, but then he's also this human that stays with Rose. Okay? Mm-hmm. I think Tom Baker did the same thing. And he retires and lives out his life as that character.
Interesting.
As
so
the
he
curator.
split and stayed with Rose. How does that work?
Well, you haven't seen it. We'll have to see it.
How does it work?
I'm not sure how it works. He did something with the TARDIS and with the regeneration stuff to do that. He gave up part of himself to be... He gave up the part of him that's a Time Lord, a regenerating Time Lord, to be a human so he could stay with Rose. Oh. It's incredibly... I don't want to say sad, but touching. Oh,
well,
boy.
I cry at every episode.
You two are going to cry when you see that one.
Okay.
So I think Tom Baker did the same thing. And I also think that
it was to stay with his daughter. I
think when he did that, he had a daughter, and his daughter was Osgood, the girl that wore the scarf. Because that's the other thing online. Everyone's been saying, oh, what a cool reference that she has his scarf.
No.
He must have given it to her. He likes her. But there was a very telling moment in this when the Zygon said to her, I'm sorry I got an imperfect model or whatever.
A
defective model. I would have preferred your sister, the perfect one. He was referring to the Doctor's daughter from another episode where we saw the Doctor's daughter. But that Doctor wouldn't have known about Osgood because I think Tom Baker had her when this split happened. So that was just really,
but she
really
knows
fun.
About her because he said you think about in your head, in your.
But she also think about this. If he did all that, he's had plenty of time to fill her in on his adventures and about what's happened. And that Tom Baker, we don't know if he's encountered other Doctors that have filled him in or if he's had other adventures that we don't know about. Mm-hmm. There is all that possibility there. So I thought that whole thing was amazing.
That Matt Smith is going to stick around even
One more
there
episode.
Could be but that there could be another storyline.
Well, that's just it.
Where he's just tucked away somewhere waiting. We don't want him to leave.
When David Tennant left, we all thought that was it, and that was so sad because David Tennant's my favorite. Although I do love Matt Smith, I actually love every one of them.
My favorite's Matt Smith.
Yeah, I know. So that was, for me, seeing David Tennant back in this just opened up all sorts of possibilities, and I still think that they could do something just like they did with Tom Baker. David Tennant could be old. They could go back and find him on that planet with Rose and do more with that David Tennant. Mm-hmm. So, okay, let's get into the episode a little bit. We really got off track there.
So Clara's a school teacher.
Right.
At Coal Hill School. And you saw some interesting things on the signage.
Yeah, there were some Easter eggs there. There were Easter eggs through this whole thing. But there were a couple of good ones there. What did you write down what they were? Yeah,
Ian Chesterton. There was a sign that said I Chesterton, and that's Ian Chesterton, who was one of the earliest companions.
He was, one of the first companions.
And then W. Coburn was for Anthony Coburn, who wrote the first episode.
Yeah, I don't know why it was W, but it was supposed to be a reference to Coburn, who wrote the first episode, credited with creating the Doctor. And then the other one,
I Am Foreman was the yard where they found the first TARDIS in the first episode.
Yeah, the very first episode starts with a policeman walking into this scrapyard, and a sign outside says "I Am Foreman," and inside, amongst all the junk, is the TARDIS. And outside here, we see a policeman walking by the school, and there's a sign for "I Am Foreman." So that was a really cool little thing. There were lots of little things.
Yeah, and it said scrapyard and everything. And it had the whole sign.
There was other stuff, like there's a scene right after that where you see a clock. It kind of focuses on the clock for a second. That is actually, I believe it's either showing the date or the time that the original episode first aired. Yeah. There's lots of little stuff like that. But it was also cool that at that same school, Clara was a teacher now.
Mm-hmm.
And she was writing on the board, and we were seeing it from behind, which was a cool effect, looking out. And the words, did you catch what the words said?
On the board that she was erasing.
No more.
No more, which is exactly what the War Doctor wrote.
Mm-hmm.
That was through the whole episode.
Everything was no more. And the painting.
And it was so funny when Rose was like, no more, no more, no more, no more.
No more.
No more.
She kept saying it in a funny way. Yeah.
Yep. So, okay. So, Clara gets a message that her doctor called.
Yeah.
And she has to go out.
She went running.
She gets on her motorcycle and drives off.
Because she wanted out. She wanted to go have an adventure with the doctor.
Of course. And she drives right into the TARDIS.
Yes.
And there he is, and he tells her...
he's reading Advanced Quantum Physics.
Right, just some light reading. Yeah. And he tells her, draft, and she snaps her fingers, and the doors close on the TARDIS.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was cute. And then he says, "No, did you learn anything?" Or something like that. Like, did you learn anything? And she says no, and he goes... She said, "Did you?" No. And then they kind of high-fived to get it was really, I thought that was really cute. They were so happy to see each other.
Oh, yeah.
And it just.
Well, and the last episode before this was the one where we first met the War Doctor, and it's the one where Clara stepped into the Doctor's time stream. Mm-hmm. So we didn't know if Clara was going to survive that by this point, if that was the end of Clara or not, but it's not.
No.
And the Doctor's time stream is changing, and this one changed it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's cool about time travel things. You can change history. You just got to be careful, because if they change the wrong thing, everybody could be dead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the TARDIS was then airlifted and taken to the Tower of London, where Unit was.
And the Doctor is inside the TARDIS while it's being lifted up.
Yeah.
And Clara, and then he falls and he's hanging onto the bottom of the TARDIS.
Right?
Yeah.
Right, and he's hanging there, and then what's her name? I can't remember her name. Calls him.
Kate Stewart.
Kate Stewart calls
him.
him.
How did I remember that?
You have a good memory.
Kate calls him, and she thinks they're just recovering the TARDIS.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, she goes, "Where are you?" And he holds the phone up so she can hear the helicopter. She's like, "Oh, we didn't know you were inside."
He said, maybe next time you could knock first.
Yeah. So then they bring the TARDIS right there to the Tower of London, which is where Unit is.
Yeah, and TARDIS proof.
Yes, and that's where we first see Osgood, who we think is Tom Baker's daughter. Uh-huh. And we get to meet Kate, who is the daughter of a character from, like, the Third Doctor. He traveled with the Third Doctor. And he helped establish this unit that stores alien artifacts and things that could be dangerous, like they're trying to protect people. And Kate, the daughter, gives the Doctor a note from Queen Elizabeth I.
Uh-huh. Because he's her husband.
Yes. Yes.
He married David Tennant. Because he made a big mistake, didn't he? Because he was not in love with her, but he
thought she was a Zygon.
He said, will you marry me? And then when she said yes, he said, Queen Elizabeth would never have agreed to marry me.
and he holds up the thing and he says, "Do you remember what the machine is called?" He says, "I know it from this."
It's a machine that goes ding.
Yeah.
That is the silliest thing ever.
As he's insulting her, all of a sudden, and you see his horse in the background, all of a sudden you see a Zygon standing there, and he goes, "Oh, you are the queen. It was my horse that was the Zygon."
It was the
He made that mistake a couple times, didn't he? Do you remember the other one that he thought was the Zygon?
Her twin.
Well, the twin, when he was insulting her about the bad breath and everything, and it turned out it was really the queen. Mm-hmm. But what was the other one? Do you remember when he's running through the woods?
No.
And he stopped because he saw that big rabbit.
Bunny.
Uh-huh.
And he got all tough about it. "I am your worst nightmare. I'm the Doctor."
And you're just a rabbit, aren't
You're
you?
just a rabbit.
That was funny.
So while he's talking to the queen, something really crazy happens. A time fissure opens up right above him, and what falls out?
A fez.
A fez. We know what that means, right?
Matt Smith?
Yeah,
Matt Smith. So then we see Clara and Matt Smith back at
The
museum, and the proof that Queen Elizabeth was who she said she was is this painting that when we saw it in the theater, it was actually 3D. It could go all the way deep in. When you watch it on TV, it had a 3D effect to it, and they kept saying it was 3D. But in the
didn't
movie,
have quite as much impact.
No, in the movie, it was super cool because everything was flat, and this thing went deep. And do you remember what they talked about with that picture? What it was?
Everybody thought it had two names, No More or Gallifrey Falls, but and Tom Baker knew it was Gallifrey Falls No More.
Right. So the whole time we've been watching the series,
and it's like, what the?
Yeah, we've thought, and the Doctor thought that he killed everybody, but Tom Baker knew, and he touched his nose to say, "Who knows?"
Who knows?
Right. So there's the picture of Gallifrey, and the Doctor knows then she knows something. Oh, and this picture, the reason it's 3D is it's Time Lord art. And he says it's a slice of time.
It's frozen.
It's frozen time, which is so cool.
Well, that's how they saved Gallifrey.
Right.
Was by all the TARDISes.
All 13.
And what did they do?
Froze Gallifrey.
They surrounded it. And
they used that same technology that made that.
And it was funny when the guy is like, "Oh no, all 13, it's my worst nightmare."
Yeah, it's my worst nightmare. All 12 doctors. He goes, "No, 13. And who did we see when he said that?
Just his eyes, the new Doctor.
Yes.
Just his eyes.
Peter Capaldi? Is that how you say his name? I don't know, but when they showed it at the theater, everybody cheered.
Yeah, everybody was screaming.
But we cheered through the whole thing.
Yeah, because everyone cheered when, even in the credits when it said Billy Piper, everyone
went nuts!
Because we knew Rose was going to be in it.
Well, and in the beginning,
each of those little things.
Before it started, when Matt Smith was talking to the group, David Tennant was in that part too. And when he walked on screen, people started screaming.
Nuts.
Well, and I thought it was cool that they did it for almost, like, for each of the doctors, but the big ones were like Paul McGann, who's the doctor just before the War Doctor. When they showed his picture, everyone started clapping in there.
Who's Paul McGann?
He's one of the earlier doctors.
Yeah, he's the doctor just before John Hurt. Do you remember that little short that we watched where it had the doctor and then he turns into John Hurt? That's Paul McGann. He was only in one movie, Doctor Who movie.
But it didn't show him turn into John Hurt. It didn't show him as John Hurt.
No, it did show him in the short. It showed him changing into him. Just like in this, we saw John Hurt changing into the next Doctor, and he turns into Christopher Eccleston. But we never saw him as Christopher Eccleston.
So, I loved when the scenes with Matt and David together.
Oh, they were so funny.
They compared their screwdrivers, and Matt Smith totally won on that one. David's was quite pathetic, and all it did was kind of go up a little bit.
Go up, yeah.
Matt's opened, and it was, very, very funny and much larger.
I thought it was funny that that John Hurt, though, just kept making fun of it, saying,
"Oh, totally.
They're screwdrivers."
Yeah.
Actually, he had a really funny comment when they were using it, and he says, "It's a screwdriver. What are you going to do? Assemble something?
Assemble a cabinet?
Yeah, assemble a cabinet at them." But it was important. Those screwdrivers turned out to be real important.
Yeah, it was.
Because do you remember when John Hurt was using it on the door? How did that work? Do you remember?
It was all three. They were just different cases.
Right, but it's the same software. So when John Hurt did his thing on the door, it meant that Matt Smith's sonic screwdriver that was 400 years older. Well, no.
No, 900.
No.
4.
John Hurt's would be 400 years older than Matt Smith's.
Oh, okay.
So when...
Younger.
Yeah. I'm so confused.
Younger. Because...
Darn this time
John
thing.
Hurt was first, and then 400 years later was...
Right, was Matt Smith. And it had... That means it had 400 years to calculate this door. So when David Tennant picked his up, he said, "Oh, it's calculating it. It's getting there." And then Matt Smith picked his up and went, "It's complete." And he goes, "Amazing. In seconds, we can do 400 years of calculation."
And what happened then? Did they need it?
They spent all that time trying to get through the door.
Why?
Yes. It wasn't locked. They just had to open the door. La, 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 la.
Claire comes walking in, and Matt Smith says, "Well, how'd you do that?" "Well, I just opened it. It wasn't locked."
What I love what, like, they're going on with the scene a little bit, and then all of a sudden Clara stops again, and she goes, "Are you telling me that there were 3 of you in this room and you didn't try the door?"
And I love that when Matt Smith said timey-wimey, and John Hurt was like, really? You know, who talks like that? And David Tennant says, I don't know where he gets this.
He does it. He got it all from his time.
Yeah.
Well, there was also the scene when the 2 queens, the Zygon one and the real queen, kiss David Tennant. And John...
Neither one are Zygons.
One was a Zygon.
Yeah, one was a Zygon.
Well, we
Queen
don't know.
Elizabeth wasn't a twin. Those were...
But John Hurt
Zygon.
turns to Matt Smith and he goes, "Does that happen a lot in my future?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, with this one it does."
It does.
Yeah. Well, with David Tennant it sure did.
Yeah, totally. And
Matt Smith, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. Not as much.
And so David Tennant made fun of Matt Smith's chin.
Yeah, he called him Chinny.
Matt Smith made fun of David's shoes and kept saying, "What are you wearing, sand shoes?" And then he called John Hurt the granddad.
Yeah, that was funny when he said, "You're going to take me, sand shoes, and granddad." And John Hurt goes, "Granddad?"
That's awful.
Because technically, he's younger than
He's
Matt
a
Smith.
lot younger, but they regenerated into younger bodies.
And that was interesting, too, because when you think about it, John Hurt pointed out they keep getting younger. Mm-hmm. And
well, not this doctor.
Peter Capaldi is older, so I don't know. Why do you think he's older, Molly? Do you have any idea? No idea? Marth, you got an idea?
I just thought maybe they wanted to shake things up a bit.
Could be that. I think it's because after the John Hurt thing, when Matt Smith regenerates, he now no longer has to run and become younger and younger. Now he can now you're going to see him go back to being older. Now, I also have another theory that, the Doctor is only supposed to regenerate 13 times, I think it is. And they've said that, Peter Capaldi is the 13th Doctor, which technically would mean it's over. Recently, there was something where the writer said, not true, because Matt Smith is technically the 13th Doctor because David regenerated in the middle with that whole Rose thing, which would mean Peter Capaldi is the 14th Doctor, even though the Gallifrey guys said he was the 13th. So right there's something off. But I also think that what we saw with Osgood, she could end up being a doctor.
The first woman doctor.
Yes, the first woman doctor, because if she's the daughter of an actual doctor, she may have the 2 hearts. She may be a real Time Lord.
Whoa. Oh, that would be so cool.
I would love it. And the whole time I was watching it, I kept thinking that this time. I didn't think it when we saw the movie in the theater.
So then she would have to have a boy companion because all the boy ones have girl ones. So
well, no, not true.
Yeah,
there have been boy ones.
Oh, yeah. I remember Matt Smith had a boy one.
Rory,
and
there was another guy, and he had his girlfriend and stuff.
Oh, you're thinking of Rose with Mickey?
No, it was a boy. It was a boy companion, and he had his girlfriend, she wasn't a companion.
Okay.
At all.
Oh, I remember. That was a couple of episodes, right? Mm-hmm. I don't remember his name.
Me neither.
Well, and if in the beginning, Ian Chesterton, he was a male companion.
Right. And Kate's dad was a male companion.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it can kind of go either way.
It can go either way, but I think it'll be really interesting if it turns out she takes over as a doctor, or if we get a storyline of her doing that, because there can only be one doctor, but, well, kind of.
There can only be one doctor.
They could do a storyline with her where she's traveling and having a completely different kind of experience. Mm-hmm. So
there would be 2 then.
Now, we saw Billie Piper in this, but she wasn't Rose. Mm-hmm. Do you remember?
She was Bad Wolf.
She was Bad Wolf.
Yeah, the interface.
Yes, she was the interface. They called her the Moment. Mm-hmm. And the Moment, well, because that machine that John Hurt had, they called it the Moment, because if he set that off, that kills Gallifrey, it kills all the Daleks and everything. It's the moment, the crucial moment. And Billie Piper was the consciousness of that. She's the one that had to make him question what he was doing. Mm-hmm. And they said he was the only one crazy enough, because they called the Doctor a madman. Mm-hmm. And they said he's the only one crazy enough to use this weapon and to do something that has a consciousness. And it's true, he was. And that was cool too, because all three doctors were going to push the button together.
Yeah.
They decided that until Clara intervened and kind of went, I didn't expect it to be you. And that's when Matt Smith realized, wait a minute, we can take this technology. There's 13 of us.
Yep.
And we can stop this thing right here. But there's another clue. If it's limitless in time, that 13th Doctor is in the future. How come it ended with him? How come there were only 13 Doctors? Why didn't we see 50 TARDISes out there?
How come we would see 50?
Well, if it doesn't end after Peter Capaldi, then it was his Doctor, his specific timeline would end. That the internal character might be ending with Peter Capaldi, but that doesn't mean that the Doctor is dead. The Doctor lives through Osgood because she's timeless and she'll keep going. I could be so wrong with all of that.
Well, yeah, we don't know.
Yeah,
we
what
don't
if
know
Peter Capaldi's
They're
in
much
that?
smarter than us.
Oh, yeah. I am on the cusp of just talking about Back to
I
the
think
Future
it
at this
might
point.
be
so.
based on the book because there's a book,
Yeah.
You said you read a comic
The
book?
comic book?
a comic book, and a real book.
Okay.
I listen to audio CDs about it.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
used to.
You know who does the audio CDs?
Something McCann.
McGann.
McGann. Something
Yeah.
McGann.
So they stop the time war.
Yeah.
We meet Tom Baker. We know that this story is not really over, but I thought it was interesting. This propels it for the next 50 years. I mean, now he's got to search for Gallifrey. He's got a purpose, and that's how it ended. It had all the Doctors standing there in a line, and he says, finally, for the first time, like, I have hope, because that was a line he said at the beginning. Before you didn't have hope. Now you have hope.
And I want to cry every time David Tennant says, I don't want to go.
Yeah, because that was the last line he said as the Doctor originally.
Okay.
And when he said it this time, it was a real heartbreaker again,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
I don't want to go.
I don't want him to go.
So I'm excited
Me
for the
neither.
Christmas special.
Yeah, this Christmas special is going to be
It's going
something.
to be big.
Uh-huh.
And
Matt Smith is in it. Yay!
it's the last Matt Smith. It's going to be
I'm
sad.
not gonna watch. I don't want to watch it because it's the last one with him.
Yeah, well, it's the
Never wanna
last.
watch
It's
it
the last one with
again.
this run. But as we saw here, it doesn't mean anything.
We can still see him over and over again.
He could be back floating through time. We have no idea.
I hope he'll be in every episode with the new guy.
I doubt that. Oh, so sad. But you know what? Think about the fans of like Tom Baker. He came back. Now they've seen Tom Baker. We saw David Tennant again. They can all come back.
Yep.
So what a wonderful show. I just had a great time with it. I loved it. I think we're going to have a great time with this podcast.
Absolutely.
And Eccleston didn't even show up.
Yeah, he wasn't in this.
They own his face, so that's why it showed his face.
Right.
But he didn't even show up for Doctor Who.
Right. But that doesn't mean in the
one.
future he won't. You know, Sean Connery said he'd never play James Bond again, and he did years later. So you never know. You never say never. That's a James Bond reference, Molly. So there you go. So does anyone else have anything else they want to say about it?
No.
No, I
That's
loved
Looking
it.
forward to the Christmas one.
I want to say a couple quick things. First of all, you can follow us on our website.
www.southgatemediagroup.com.
Excellent. I want to give a special shout out to the Shakeups in Ponyville for supplying our awesome theme song.
Yay!
Yay!
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
It's so awesome. We look forward to playing that every time and
Uh-huh.
having a little dance party on our way out. And make sure you go to their website, buy their CDs. They have their own awesome Doctor Who character, which is a pony. Do you remember his name, Molly?
Dr. Who's.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much. And look for us on Facebook. We've got our own page there. Just look up Coo Coo for Who. That's it. I'm done. Are you guys done?
Yep.
All right. Until next time, time's up.
Dun 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 na 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 na. Let the games end.